new multilateral deals, and the highlight of this year, the G20 presidency by India. India is the chair for the president for G20 for the year 2023. Now, what is G20? What is the importance of such an international organization in present scenario? What are the challenges and opportunities for India as a president of G20? This all we will be learning today by our expert speakers, and this event has been jointly organized by Institutions Innovation Council IIC, Student Advisory and Welfare Council SAWC, and Department of Journalism and Mass Communication in collaboration with the esteemed national organization Akashwani Jalandhar. Moving on with the ceremony today. So Akashwani Jalandhar ਤੇ DAV College Jalandhar ਦੀ ਕਾਰਗੁਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਸਦਕਾ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ India's presidency of G20 ਹੋਣ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਦੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ. I request our patron principal sir to please come up on dais and say a few words.
Yes, thank you very much, Rajwinder. Dignitaries sitting on the dais, our esteemed guests. This is nice that the college opened only yesterday and we are holding this first activity. So this activity could have been made possible only because of your active participation. All the gems of Student Advisory and Welfare Council of the last year who had done wonderful job in different activities, and whatsoever duty had been assigned to Student Advisory and Welfare Council, they completed this duty with full devotion and dedication. And I once again express my heartfelt gratitude to all the students belonging to Student Advisory and Welfare Council for their work in the last semester and for their presence today, because this function has been made possible only because of your presence. So you deserve special applause. This topic on which we are going to deliberate today about the G20, this is a very, very important theme that we have taken up, and in the recent, particularly in this year 2023, you might have come across the news items in the newspapers, TV and social media about the activities of G20. As Rajwinder told you that G20 is a group of 20 nations that comprises the most powerful nations of the world. And India is one nation and it is hosting, being the president of G20 group from 1st December 2022 for 1 year. So different venues have been chosen in India to hold various activities, conclaves, conferences, meetings, and these meetings, they have been divided into different areas or different ministries. And I think this is the first time we have come across such an event where the activities of any international body or international intergovernment platform have taken place outside Delhi. Because earlier, all these activities, all these functions, they used to be organized in the national capital of Delhi, but this time, even the border town of Amritsar has been chosen, and the far-flung area of India, most northern part, that is Kashmir Valley, even Srinagar was chosen as one of the venues. So different ministries at different places, different activities were organized. It may be about emerging political scenario in the world, the new world order, how to mitigate greenhouse gases, concentrating on sustainable development, how to improve education, how to improve world economy, and so many. You can think of any topic, and that was covered under this G20 conclave or G20 summit, what you call as, and at different places, the different discussions that took place. Though it is not mandatory for the member countries to abide by what the decisions have been taken at a given place. That's not mandatory. But when we exchange our views, people, when they come from far-flung areas, for example, Education Minister of UK, when he visits India, so he or she may visit our universities or colleges. They can see our school education, how this education system is different from that of their country. So this is comparative study of different countries, different cultures, and different perspectives. The world is totally interconnected with each other. If there is disturbance in one part of the world, the other people, the people in the other part, they feel the heat. So much is the interconnection, so much is the linkage. So that's why we say that the whole world is a global village. We are not isolated from each other. And our development is possible only if we are linked to each other, we support each other, we cooperate with each other. The natural resources, they are distributed all over the world. It is not necessary that one country has got all the resources. Like India depends upon these Arab countries or some other countries of Europe for its petroleum supplies. The raw material for different industries, it comes from different countries. For example, if we take the case of China, China has emerged as the mightiest nation in the recent years. But if you go back about 30 years or 40 years, you will see that China was not that powerful. It was a poor country, but that time it was just a closed economy. It did not open its doors to the citizens of the other countries of the world. But when they opened the door to the other countries, other citizens of the world, then they start developing, and now you can see the result. It has become the largest manufacturing hub of the world, providing raw material and finished material to the entire world. So no country can think of surviving without the aid of China. No matter how much we raise the slogans that buy our Chinese goods, so that's not going to serve the purpose. So that means this G20 has given us a platform to come together, to interact with the different countries, the heads of different countries, their different ministers of the concerned departments of which these meetings were held. So definitely it was a very enriching experience for Indian government, the state governments, and even the state governments, they got a chance to host such a big event, international event. So I'm very sure that our speakers today, they will throw more light on this. I've just touched the periphery of this G20 and its activities, but in depth and more relevance of this in India and its impact on the world politics, world development, world peace, they are going to deliberate. So I once again welcome all the dignitaries who have spared their valuable time, and above all, the best of the thanks to all the students who have made today to the college. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. ਉਹ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਜਿਹਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਸੀ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਕੁਝ ਮਹੀਨਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਦੁਰਾਡੇ ਕੋਨਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਫੰਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਕੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੀ ਕੀ ਮਹੱਤਤਾ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਚਾਨਣਾ ਪਾਣਗੇ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੈਸਟ ਸਪੀਕਰਸ. So with this, I would like to invite our first speaker for today, Dr. Dinesh Arora. So please welcome sir on stage.
The topic that I has been given is what is G20 and why it is important. I have 10 minutes to justify this topic. I try to be very specific about what is G20 and why it is important. First of all, when we talk about G20 or any international relations, we have to keep in mind that only actors changes. At the national level, when we talk about the national politics, here the political parties or individuals, they act as the actors. When we talk about the international relations, the actor changes. In the international sphere, the states become the actor. And the prime focus in international relations remains to protect the national interest. As esteemed principal sir has rightly said, that we are in an age of internationalism. No state can exist in isolation. All states have to deal with other for securing the goals of national interest. While dealing with other, each state has to deal with others. जिस एज में हम लोग रह रहे हैं, it's an age of internationalism. We have to develop relations with other states for securing the goals of national interest. National interest is a broad term. It includes political interest, economic interest, social, cultural. It's a broad term. When we talk about G20, what is G20? We have to understand, firstly, in these days we are listening about G20. What is G20 and how it came to existence? G20 बना कैसे और G20 है क्या? तो G20, G stands for group. It's a group of 20. So 19 states are there and one is the European Union. It's a premier forum for international economic cooperation. The prime focus of G20 is the economic cooperation. It plays an important role in shaping and strengthening global architecture and governance on all major international economic issues. तो G20 एग्जिस्टेंस में कैसे आता है? तो इसके पीछे एक इतिहास है कि 1999 में जो फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस आया उसके कारण एक सोच बनी, और ये सोच यूरोपियन यूनियन के बीच में से आती है, और यूरोपियन यूनियन के रूप में ही ये डिस्कशंस होती हैं कि हम लोग एक डिस्कशन करें कि ये फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस को कैसे ओवरकम किया जाए। तो उसमें हम लोग देखते हैं कि G20 was founded in 1999 after the Asian financial crisis as a forum for the finance ministers and central bank governors to discuss global economic and financial issues। तो यहाँ से जर्नी आगे बढ़ती है। ये अगर आप पिछली स्लाइड्स देखो तो it was about the finance ministers and central bank governors only। तो यहाँ पे पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स नहीं है, हेड ऑफ द स्टेट्स, हेड ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट इसमें इन्वॉल्व नहीं है। लेकिन दोबारा एक क्राइसिस आता है, और 2007 का जो फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस है, that led to the involvement of head of the states and head of the government in the wake of the global economic and financial crisis 2007. So it has 19 members and one is the union, that is the European Union. It's a group of 20, 19 states and one European Union. So there are invitees, the state having the presidency, that state prepare the list of the invitees. So this time we have invited 9 states. One is the Bangladesh, Netherlands, Singapore, Egypt, Nigeria, UAE, Mauritius, Oman and Spain. सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट अगर इस लिस्ट में देखो तो साउथ एशिया से एक ही कंट्री है, वो है बांग्लादेश। तो बांग्लादेश इकोनॉमी इज डूइंग गुड। देयर आर possibilities in the development of South Asia that Bangladesh will play an important role. So Bangladesh is there in the list and the only country from South Asia. Just have a look on G20 at the global level. You see जो इसके member countries हैं, यूरोप में भी आपको दिख रहा है और एशिया में भी है, और अमेरिकन कॉन्टिनेंट्स जो है नॉर्थ अमेरिका, वहाँ पे भी आपको उसकी जो पहचान है G20 की दिख रही है। तो this is perhaps the only organization having so widespread at the global level. So this is a superpower, super economic power group. There are other groups as well, like G7 is there, BRICS is there, SCO is there. We have a meeting on 4th of July of SCO and India was president of that meeting. That was a video conference meeting, online mode. We have a meeting on 4th of July, SCO meeting, Shanghai Corporation Organization meeting. BRICS is there, SAARC is there, BIMSTEC is there. There are so many other organizations. Even we have G77 is there. But despite this, most prominent position belongs to G20. Because if you go through this whole map, you will find there are developing as well as developed countries. Earlier we see that there is a group of having a countries of developed nature or the countries having the nature of a developing state. But here is a mixture of both developed as well as developing countries. 85% share of global GDP belongs to G20. It's not an ordinary group. 75% of global trade is among the G20 nations. 67% share of global population. It's a big group. That's why it is most prominent among all the regional organizations, or we call regional groups. G20 की जो summits हैं, I have already told कि earlier it was a sort of a group among the finance ministers or the governor of the central banks. In 2008, the first summit held in USA, then second in UK. It's a complete list. The 18th summit will be held in India in the month of September, 9th and 10th September. That will be the culmination of this whole series of programs. And just have a look on the 17th summit that held in Bali, Indonesia in November 2022. That was a very prominent summit, because in that summit India got the presidency, right? And the next summit will be in Brazil. That will be in the year 2024. This was the Bali summit where India got the presidency of G20 from 1st December 2022 to 30th November 2023. So India got the presidency. There is a technical procedure how a country got the presidency. And usually we say that by rotation a country got the presidency. Yes, it's right. But there are groups within G presidency and these groups rotate while giving the presidency. So India got presidency, and in this presidency one term is very important. This is Troika. Sometimes you go through the competitive exams and you will find this term Troika. What is Troika? Troika is a group of 3 countries. It's an informal sort of a group. One is the previous president of G20, that is Indonesia, passes to India. Present presidency is India, and the future presidency, that is Brazil. Before that, Italy was there. Italy passes it to Indonesia. Indonesia passes it to India. Then India will pass it to Brazil. And what is important in this Troika? In this Troika, what is important? All are the developing countries. And now the developing countries, they are at upper hand. They are on the driving seat. They are in a position to give direction to the world. So that's why G20 has become more important. And secondly, India has a habit, India has a rich legacy, cultural legacy, to give direction to the world. That's why G20 is more prominent this time. So this Troika is important. Then logo and theme. This year, the logo and theme is Vasudev Kutumbakam. This is the theme, and you can see the logo. Vasudev Kutumbakam give the message of one earth, one family, and one future. Just see the logo. The G20 logos draws inspiration from the vibrant colors of India's national flag. Saffron is there, white is there, green and blue colors are also there. Then you see the earth is there, the flower lotus is there, national flower of India is the lotus. That reflects growth and the challenges. Earth reflects India's pro-planet approach to life, one in perfect harmony with nature. Below the 20th G20 logo is Bharat. It is written in Hindi, in Devanagari script. There is a beautiful website that has been created by India, a separate website. You must visit that website to go if you want to go into the detail of the concept, you can see all the details are available. Then the theme, Vasudev Kutumbakam. So this is again the concept of one earth, one family, one future. So actually this was based on the Prime Minister's address that was given in Indonesia in November 2022. It aims the value of life, human, animal, plant, microorganisms and their interconnectedness on the planet Earth and in the wider universe. Again, our Prime Minister highlighted India's 20th presidency will work to promote the universal sense of oneness. Hence, our theme is one earth, one family and one future. The message क्या है? इस पूरे message अगर logo और theme को देखें तो उसका message क्या आता है? वो message आता है equitable growth of all in the world. जो कमजोर हैं उनको भी उनका share मिले, so that we can create welfare in the world. That is the equitable growth of all in the world. This is the message behind this whole logo and the theme. How G20 works, because this is a unique organization, it has no secretariat. इसका कोई permanent secretariat नहीं है. SAARC का secretariat है, BIMSTEC का secretariat है, SCO का secretariat है, but this is the unique organization having no secretariat. Then how it works? In 2010, France proposes to have secretariat in Paris, but because of certain reason it was not materialized, but it has no secretariat right now. Then how it works? G20 works, presidency steers the G20 agenda for 1 year and hosts the summit. जो president होगा वो 1 year का program तैयार करेगा. So G20 consists of 2 parallel tracks, the finance track and the Sherpa track. Finance track is regulated by the central bank governors and the finance ministers, while the Sherpa track led the Sherpa track after the finance track. So there is a new term, that is the Sherpa. तो Sherpa क्या होता है? Sherpa होता है जो direction देने वाला हो, जो दिशा बताने वाला हो. So it's a unique concept where an international organization is run by the Sherpas. तो इंडिया के जो Sherpa हैं वो on behalf of the head of the state or head of the government वो काम करते हैं. So he is Amitabh Kant, very popular name, remained as chairman of Niti Aayog, very popular person. Regularly we see his statements on G20. We have tried to make G20 not a government's presidency, but a people's presidency. Just see the statement. This is from Amitabh Kant. G20, we will push for digital and green agenda. Presidency of India aims for inclusive, resilient and sustainable growth. Just see regularly, these are the newspaper headings that I have picked for you. So Amitabh Kant is presently acting as a Sherpa of India. India to host more than 200 events in over 50 cities across India. 200 events plan की हुई हैं. जो इंडिया का presidency है उसमें 200 event हैं. First from, you can see from Srinagar to northeast, from Kerala, south, extreme तक वो सारी events हैं. Why G20 is important? So we have discussed what is G20, कैसे बना, इसके एम क्या है, लोगो क्या है, थीम क्या है, प्रेसिडेंसी इंडिया को कब मिली, ये हम लोगों ने एक पार्ट में डिस्कस किया. नाउ कम व्हाई इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट. आई हैव ऑलरेडी टोल्ड, इस समय we are passing, international community is now passing from a very terrible phase because we have seen a war is there and it's a major challenge to give direction to the world. Our Prime Minister has already said in the ASEAN, just few months back we have a ASEAN meeting, and he has clearly told it's not an era of war, and all the international leaders, they applauded, they give support to the ideas of Prime Minister that it's not an era of war. After all, you have to give direction to the world where we have to lead. Why G20 is important? I have some of the points for you. Firstly, we have a progressive agenda. G20 agenda will be inclusive, ambitious, action-oriented and decisive. There are differences because जहाँ भी लीडर बैठते हैं, अगर चाइना बैठेगा तो रशिया की फेवर में बैठेगा. इट्स वेरी क्लियर. यूएसए होगा, उसको अपोज करेगा. सबको लेके बैलेंस कैसे बनाना है. एक चीज बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है कि जब हम लोग पॉलिटिक्स की बात करते हैं, पॉलिटिक्स डजंट मीन ओनली कन्फ्लिक्ट. अब इंडिया क्या कह रहा है? इंडिया कह रहा है कि नो डाउट देयर आर इश्यूज वेयर वी हैव कन्फ्लिक्ट्स, बट देयर आर अदर इश्यूज वेयर वी हैव यूनैनिमिटी. वी शुड फोकस ऑन दोज इश्यूज. ये नहीं हो सकता कि हम लोग अगर यूक्रेन की बात हर जगह करते रहेंगे तो आगे ग्रोथ रुक जाएगी. इसलिए बेटर है कि वी शुड फोकस ऑन प्रोग्रेसिव इश्यूज. तो कॉमन ऑब्जेक्टिव लेके चलें. तो देयर आर इश्यूज ऑन विच डिस्कशंस शुड बी हेल्ड. नेक्स्ट आपको मैं बताऊंगा, जिसमें अगर आपने 2 मार्च में G20 के फॉरेन मिनिस्टर्स के बीच में डिस्कशंस हुई हैं और उसके बाद क्या वो आउटकम लेके आते हैं. आई हैव वन स्लाइड फॉर दैट, not in detail. You can see that what India is now focusing, India is now giving a direction. Leave all the controversial issues, just focus on the issues which are related to the common man, so that we can make real progress in the world. Then opportunities. G20 presidency at this time is huge opportunity. The Prime Minister said it's an opportunity to showcase India's capability to the world. It's a real time. वो countries जो इकोनॉमी में अगर आप उनको पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम में देखते हो, वो कंट्रीज आपके पास आ रहे हैं. इट्स अ टाइम टू शोकेस इंडियाज अचीवमेंट्स, इंडियाज कैपेबिलिटी. विद सच ए साइजेबल नेशन, द मदर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी, सच डाइवर्सिटी एंड सच पोटेंशियल, इंडिया हैज द चांस टू इंट्रोड्यूस इटसेल्फ टू द वर्ल्ड and demonstrate its potential. To strengthen Global South, this is very important. Global South is now at the topmost agenda of India. Global South means to have more bondage among the developing countries, and that's why Prime Minister Narendra Modi has appealed to include African Union in the G20, and we are working for multilateralism. Our approach is now towards multilateralism because India believes that after Second World War, the arrangements that have been made proved to be failure because wars are there, conflicts are there, and we need a world having multilateral outlook, not unipolar. We need a world having multipolar outlook to provide direction to the world. So now it's India's job to give direction to the world. G20 must provide direction to the world. Now presently world is directionless. So India has a responsibility to give direction to the world. Back to the real business. We have already done it. 95% of things are there where we have an agreement. Despite having no formal statement in 2nd of March 2023 Foreign Affairs Ministers, we didn't release the formal statement, joint statement. But despite that, we have an agreement of 95% issues. So India got the presidency back to its original agenda. What was the original agenda? Economic development, economic progress, growth, development. After it was seen grappling with the Ukrainian conflict. तो यूक्रेन का जो कन्फ्लिक्ट है, सारी जगह उसी की बातें हो रही हैं. उससे बाहर लाना, ग्रोथ, डेवलपमेंट की बात करना, दैट वाज इंडियाज चैलेंज. और हमारे जो एक्सटर्नल अफेयर मिनिस्टर हैं, एस जयशंकर, वो कह रहे हैं वी हैव अचीव्ड ऑलमोस्ट 95% ऑफ आइटम्स ऑन द एजेंडा. तो देयर आर सम मैटर्स ऑफ शार्प डिफरेंसेस ऑफ ओपिनियन. जो मैंने पहले बात बोली थी कि जो स्टेट लेवल पे होता है वो नेशनल लेवल पे जो हो रहा है उसको आप इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे रिजेंबल करके देखो. देयर आर सम मैटर्स ऑफ शार्प डिफरेंसेस ऑफ ओपिनियंस एंड व्यूज, येट वी मस्ट फाइंड कॉमन ग्राउंड एंड प्रोवाइड डायरेक्शन बिकॉज दैट इज व्हाट द वर्ल्ड एक्सपेक्ट ऑफ. ये नहीं हो सकता कि एक यूक्रेन का इशू आप लेके उसके ऊपर स्टक हो जाओ, वहीं पे रुक जाओ. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता बिकॉज देयर आर सर्टन इश्यूज. ये घर पे भी होता है, ये एक स्टेट में भी होता है, नेशनल लेवल में भी होता है, वही इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे there are issues on which you have a conflict. We have a conflict with one country regarding border. We leave that issue and we decided to go over economic issues, economic relation with that country. Same is the case with India here in G20. The message is very clear. Though the G20, India is giving new energy to the global reputation of Buddha's message for freedom from war and Mahatma Gandhi's solution in resistance to violence. So this was our message, and I am completing with this with last slide. Vasudev Kutumbakam, so India has led the world with initiatives like One Sun, One World and One Grid in conserving renewable energy, and our mantra of One Earth, One Family, One Future in G20 will pave a path for global wealth. So this was from my side. Try to be receptive on what is G20 and why it is important. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. You've listened to Dr. Dinesh Arora, Professor in Political Science Department, DAV College, Jalandhar. We have Navdish, Gambhir, and the topic will be India's presidency of G20 challenges and opportunities. Please give him a huge round of applause, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected dignitaries, teachers. I think sir had justified the topic, so I'll be continuing the same. And my topic will be opportunity as well as challenges for India as G20 president. So I would like to start this session with a question. A student asked to our respected Prime Minister in a session of Man Ki Baat, that was, as we say that India is a Vishwa Guru. So this is a very common term that we are using. Everybody is saying that India will be a developed nation. So he asked a very genuine question. When India will be a developed nation? Can you give a timeline for that? Students, can we give a timeline to that? When India will be a developed nation? So I'll be answering this question through this whole session, and at last I'll be in a more better position to answer this. So we are in the era where India is applauded everywhere. We make a policy, and as sir said, I think it is the time for India to give direction to the world. As through our Vedas we give direction to the world, so it is the time for India, through geopolitical diplomacy, we can give direction to the world. So, and it is the era where a Pakistani journalist, when asked our esteemed minister that you are on which side, Russia or Ukraine, he says that we are on the side of peace. So it is the time when India can take stand. We are in a better position now, especially the geopolitical position, where we can take a stand. And through G20, it will be easy to India to take a stand and tell the world what is our view. If I talk about India and relationship with G20, sir had shown sort of data that 60% of the population, 75% of the world trade and 85% of the GDP belongs to G20. But if we make a comparison, out of that 60%, 17.7% of the population belongs to India. 8.7% of the GDP contribution to the world belongs to India. But when it comes to the world trade, just 1.7% of the exports belong to India and 2.6% of the imports that belong to India. So there are some weak points also where we have to work, and we are working also. So this tells us about the situation and the position of India in G20. And as population, as GDP, we are in a very strong position when we concern about the G20. So already sir had told you about the Troika system. So if we talk about Indonesia, so this whole story of G20 started from Thailand and Indonesia during the 1996, 7, 8, 9, that financial crisis. This all started with Indonesia, and India took the G20 presidentship from Indonesia. But if we see the economy of Indonesia, it got better due to G20 presidentship. As you can see, in 2021, the GDP growth rate in Indonesia was 3.7% due regards to COVID-19 also, but the growth you can see 5.3%, and this is the highest growth rate which Indonesia have seen. So the same was expected by India, that this G20 is going to boost our economic growth G20 is going to boost our relationship. So what I have done, I have divided the opportunities for India in various relationship and other theories which I think India will be having after G20 presidentship. So if we talk about G20 presidentship, wherever it goes, it boosts the economy. So as sir had told us that it has two parts, it has one more part, that is engagement group. Sherpa track, finance track, they are the major parts, but there is one more part, that is engagement group. That is very initial and that is very important part of G20. If I talk about engagement group, it has very many parameters and agendas which are set by the G20 presidents. So India has the opportunity to set agenda, to set policy and to give direction to the world. So it consists of B20, that is business 20, L20, that is labor 20, W20, that is women 20, U20, startup 20, parliament 20. So in this way, the ex-presidents of the G20, they have set up various engagement group, and now India has the opportunity to set up an engagement group. So in this way, we can make policies for G20 that is going to affect the G20 members also. So if you see the current growth rates of G20 members, so India in a very commanding position. If you see the GDP growth rates of the G20 groups, so India is on the second number amongst the G20 groups. So there are guest members also here. So after Saudi Arabia, India is in a very commanding position, and Saudi Arabia and India, they have a very good relationship also. So in this slide, I'll be telling you later on also. So in this slide, a very deep message is there. So first is India will be benefited in economy and policy making. Second is G20 countries have a very good power, a very initial and very diplomatic power. They can ask the various countries to act as a guest also. They can call guest also. It's not a group for just members, but they can call guest also. So as already discussed, so this time we will be having 9 guests, but one important guest and one important tie up in this regional group, that is the group that is India building, or the ties or the relationship which is India building with UAE. Now the bilateral trade between India and UAE in the last 5 years, it has grown by 186%. So it's a very big number and a very big message. India and UAE having deep diplomatic relationship. So it's a deep message, and it's a deep message for the whole Southern Asian and the Western countries also, where it used to be that the polarization of powers used to be with the Western countries. Now it is shifting to the Southern Asia and especially India. So as India says that we are the peacemakers of the South Asia. We are against terrorism, we are against wars. So after this G20, I think India will be emerging as the global Southern Asian leader, and that is a very important opportunity for India to emerge as a leader of South Asia. So India already says that we are the voice of South Asia, especially the countries like Africa and South America, the countries which are the victims of polarization. We are the voice of those countries. Next is, it's very important event for networking and information sharing, knowledge sharing, because the Prime Minister said we'll be conducting more than 200 meetings this year with related to G20, and in these meetings we'll be hosting around 32,000 invitees in India. So it's a very big number. So there will be obvious sharing of knowledge as well as information amongst the various G20 members as well as the guest members. One of the key area of G20, that is crisis and disaster management, because still the key root or the key base of this G20 lies in the financial management, or the you can say the financial crisis management. So obviously we have teams, we have groups that are working for financial management, and as we see the geopolitical scenario, it is very important for India now to emerge as a leader which help itself also and help other countries. Like we gave vaccination to many of the G20 members, that shows our diplomacy at international level, and obviously it's an opportunity for India to emerge as a global leader. And obviously India, one thing we are known for, that is our IT sector. So obviously we are working on IT sector, and it will be an opportunity to showcase our IT expertise to the world also. Like I'll share a very good example with you all. Like Sherpas from Canada, they came to India and they were very shocked to see the UPI system on a small shop. So they had not seen the UPI system yet. So it's an opportunity for our country to showcase the various technologies or the IT sector which we are building. So this was all about the opportunities. If I talk about the challenges, tell you that these all challenges, they are speculative in nature. But if I talk about the challenges, the biggest challenges are I think our neighborhood. We can't be a global leader if our neighbors are not at that par. If we talk about Pakistan, financial crisis, Sri Lanka, financial crisis, Nepal are not working with us, Afghanistan, Taliban government, Syria. So this whole Asian region, it is victim of, I think, the policies of many polarized countries. I'll also take the name of China also. It's in Asia, but it's working for the benefit of the West and itself also. And the biggest problem for us through the G20, it's China itself. Where India goes, China goes, and China works against India in majority of the things. So how to diplomatically handle China? And if we see the current scenario of Arunachal Pradesh, how China is coming within the country. So it's a very important and a very good platform now to cater China also. But it's obviously a challenge for India. So when it comes to G20, it's a group of 20 countries. And to cater the interest of these diverse nations, it's a very, very difficult task. Because every country comes with its own propaganda. And it's very difficult to cater the interest of all these nations. Obviously, climate change. And I say that all the eyes these days are on India. The world, the international eyes are on India. And if we see the scenario right now, the floods, like this is a news in the Arab news, I think it's of yesterday, that 22 people were killed in northern India due to floods. So now it comes as a responsibility for India to cater the climate change also, and obviously it's a result of climate change. So it's a challenge now. How is India is going to answer? Like 2 days after this, we are going to have a conference in Rishikesh, and now there is a situation of flood in all the Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. So how India is going to tackle that? That is a very big challenge for India. Next is obviously on any round table, diplomatic table, when we sit there, Russia-Ukraine war is there. And everybody asks for India's stand on Russia-Ukraine war. But yes, India is tackling this situation very carefully. But yes, this is challenge for India. इस बात से कितना भाग सकेंगे हम, या इसको कैसे टैकल करेंगे रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर को, और रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर की सिचुएशन से जो आगे सिचुएशन क्रिएट हुई है, हाउ वी आर गोइंग टू टैकल दैट. दैट इज अ बिग चैलेंज फॉर इंडिया. आफ्टर दिस, G20 is a very good group, very diplomatically important group, but its implementation or the agendas which the countries set, its implementation is not at par. So it's a challenge for India to implement the agendas which are set in G20 also. I would like to ask you a question. Have you seen that Qatar World Cup? Have you seen the Qatar World Cup? So my question is, what was the amount that was spent by Qatar on the FIFA World Cup? What was the amount? Near about, the amount was 220 billion US dollars. I had written that in rupees also. So why Qatar spent that much amount on that Qatar World Cup, FIFA World Cup? It was just a FIFA World Cup. Now India will be hosting Cricket World Cup, ICC World Cup also. India is not going to spend that. BCCI is not going to spend that amount. But why Qatar spent that much of amount? Because Qatar spent this amount because Qatar was in the eyes of the most powerful nations, and the most powerful nations of the world were going to Qatar to play that FIFA World Cup. So this is Qatar is a very small country as compared to India. it spent a very huge amount. So why India is spending such a big amount? Because India is in the eyes of the world. So the whole world is having the eyes on us. So it's our opportunity to be, already I have said, India now can emerge as a global Southern Asian leader. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. You've listened to Mr. Navdish Gambhir. So Mr. Navdish have mentioned the difficulties posed by heavy rainfall due to this monsoon's onset, the landslides, flash floods, and evacuation of many areas in northern India. And most of this can be attributed to the climate change. So our next lecture would be on climate change and sustainable development goals, which is a highlight agenda in this year's G20 summit. So the only last lecture, and I request sir to please compile it within 10 to 15 minutes. Please welcome on stage Mr. Naveen Sharma.
Thanks for giving this opportunity to me to speak a few words which might be helpful to the young bright minds who will be responsible for the better future which we are all aspiring for. So we'll have a brief talk on something which is, I think, the only most important thing which we can do right now, which is related to G20. What is G20? It's an international forum consisting of around 19 nations plus EU, European Union, that accounts for nearly 2/3 of the population of the entire world and 60% of the land mass. So G20 is actually the world. The maximum economies, सब कुछ जो है वो इसी international forum में है. So we'll come directly to one thing which is troubling us the most since last 20-30 years. और अभी आप recently भी देख रहे हैं कि सब लोग किससे सबसे ज़्यादा परेशान हो रहे हैं, which is troubling us the most, which is affecting us the most. This is समथिंग वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर यू. मेरा जो मानना है कि अगर विश्व ही नहीं होगा तो विश्व गुरु कैसे होंगे, अगर रहने के लिए जगह नहीं होगी तो घर कहाँ बनेंगे, सांस लेने के लिए हवा नहीं होंगे तो जिएंगे कैसे, पानी नहीं होंगे तो पिएंगे क्या. सो आई एम हियर टू स्पीक ऑन G20 climate change mitigation, sustainable development. It's an intergovernmental organization, a forum which was established in 1999 after the crisis. इसीलिए इसका जो बनाया गया to tackle the problems of global finance, international financial instability. जब इंस्टेबिलिटी आएगी तो सभी इकोनॉमीज इकट्ठे होकर क्या सोल्यूशन दे सकती हैं, वो G20 का जो पर्पस है. बट अभी जैसा कि हमारी प्रेसिडेंसी इस साल जो हमें मिली है, बिफोर दैट इट वाज विद इंडोनेशिया, और उसके बाद जो जा रही है द बेटन गोज टू दो ग्लोबल साउथ की बात चल रही है. तो ये इट इज़ अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट जंक्चर राइट नाउ कि एक ब्लॉक 3 साल के लिए हेड कर रहा है जो कि डेवलपिंग नेशंस का ब्लॉक है. सबसे ज़्यादा एक्सप्लॉइटेड भी हमें, और मेनली हमारे ग्रुप्स में से ही सबसे ज़्यादा एक्सप्लॉइटेशन भी हो रहा है. तो वी आर इन अ वेरी डाइसी सिचुएशन राइट नाउ, क्योंकि हमें डेवलपमेंट भी करनी है, टाइट रोप पे चल रहे हैं हम, हमें वो भी अपना जो पेस है वी हैव टू कीप दैट ऑल्सो, एंड वी हैव टू गिव अ सस्टेनेबल मॉडल ऑल्सो, ताकि जो हमारे एमिशंस को कम कर सकें. आप देख रहे हैं पिछले 2-3 वीक से, आप इस बार मार्च ऑनवर्ड्स आपने क्लाइमेट पैटर्न को फॉलो किया है अपने सबने. अ मार्च फुल ऑफ रेन्स, अप्रैल फुल ऑफ रेन्स, मे फुल ऑफ रेन्स, जून वॉज ओके बट स्टिल रेन्स नॉर्मल से ज़्यादा थी. अब जुलाई तो इट्स ऑनसेट ऑफ मॉनसून. अब देख रहे हैं कि क्या हो रहा है. इट इज़ अनकंट्रोल्ड, फ्लड्स हो रहे हैं, जो लैंडस्लाइड्स हो रही हैं. दिस इज़ ऑल बिकॉज ऑफ क्लाइमेट चेंज. आज से 20-25 साल पहले जब इस चीज़ पे काम होना शुरू हुआ तो लोगों ने इसको बोला कि दिस इज़ एन अलार्मिस्ट प्रोजेक्शन, कि हम अलार्म हो रहे हैं, शायद हो ना हो, बट अब हमें दिख रहा है. वी कैन फील इट टिल स्किन. अब हमें पता लग रहा है कि क्या हो रहा है. जो फ्लैश फ्लड्स आप देख रहे हैं हिमाचल में, जो तबाही मची उत्तराखंड में, एंड अदर पार्ट्स ऑफ द कंट्री. सिमिलरली दीज थिंग्स आर हैपनिंग इन अदर पार्ट्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड ऑल्सो. और 3.6 बिलियन पूरी पॉपुलेशन का जो पार्ट है, आई मीन टू से, दीज आर द मोस्ट वनरेबल पॉपुलेशंस. अगर 8 अरब हमारी पॉपुलेशन है तो 3.5-4 ऐसे हैं जो इतने वनरेबल है कि उनके ऊपर डेवास्टेटिंग इम्पैक्ट होगा इस चीज़ का. सो दैट इज वेयर G20 हैज़ टू प्ले अ गुड रोल एंड इफेक्टिव रोल. बट मैं आपको बताऊं कि G20 टिल नाउ इज termed as a toothless giant, if I am not wrong, sir. Its impacts have not been so effective. आज भारत के पास इस जंक्चर पर प्रेसिडेंसी मिलने का जो हमारे देश को, इट्स अ वेरी opportune moment, एक बहुत ही हमारे पास एक ऐसा जंक्चर है जहाँ पर वी कैन बिकम ग्लोबल लीडर्स इफ वी हैव अ सोल्यूशन, बट बिफोर गिविंग द सोल्यूशन टू द वर्ल्ड वी नीड सोल्यूशन हेयर ऑल्सो, बिकॉज एज अ डेवलपिंग नेशन हम एमिशंस में भी आगे हैं, हम ही सबसे ज़्यादा उसके जो बैकलैशेज हैं हमें ही सबसे ज़्यादा लेने पड़ रहे हैं, सबसे ज़्यादा नुकसान, डिस्ट्रक्शन, डेवस्टेशन वी आर एक्चुअली फेसिंग द हीट एज सर सेड। तो जो हीट है वो हमें अब महसूस हो रही है, वो सिर्फ गर्मियों में नहीं, वो हीट हमें सर्दियों में भी महसूस होती है, बिकॉज अ वेरी कंडेंस्ड विंटर्स। मैं थोड़ा सा डाइग्रेस इसलिए हो रहा हूँ कि मैं G20 भी आ रहा हूँ। चैलेंजेस क्या हैं हमारे पास, आप लोगों ने नोट किया होगा कि पिछले 8-9 साल में सर्दियाँ सिर्फ 15 से 16 दिन की रह गई हैं। दैट इज़ मे बी 20th December टू प्रॉब्ली 13th January, जो हमारा लोहड़ी का फेस्टिवल होता है। सो दीज ऑल क्लाइमेट चेंजेस अभी ये क्योंकि ग्रेजुअल होते हैं कि इफेक्ट्स धीरे धीरे पता लगेंगे, बट नाउ ऑनवर्ड्स आई बिलीव एंड आई कीप माई फिंगर्स क्रॉस्ड वी आर गोइंग टू फेस अ वेरी वेरी बैड सिचुएशन। बहुत हम आगे जा रहे हैं, तो ये चीज़ सुननी, इम्प्लीमेंट करनी ज़रूरी है। वी आर गोइंग टू बी अ वेरी वाटर स्कार्स नेशन, इस चीज़ को हमें चैंपियन करना पड़ेगा। आपको बताना चाहूँगा कि 1930s में जो हमारा पर कैपिटा वाटर, जो पानी होता था हमारे पास पीने के लिए, नहाने के लिए या कुछ भी करने के लिए, दैट वाज 5800 क्यूबिक मीटर्स पर ईयर। 5800 क्यूबिक मीटर्स पर ईयर ये पानी हमारे पास होता था पीने के लिए, अपना यूज करने के लिए। एंड नाउ इट इज फॉलन टू 1300, 1300, 5800 से हम 1300 पर आ गए हैं। और जैसे ही वी रीच 1000 वी आर अ वाटर स्कार्स नेशन। और जहां पर स्कार्सिटी इस लेवल की आ जाती है इस देश में, वहां पर आपके सोशल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स, सोशियो इकोनॉमिक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट शुरू होते हैं। और आने वाले ज़माने की जो लड़ाइयाँ होंगी वो कास्ट, कलर, क्रीड, नेशनलिज्म, ये सब पीछे रह जाएंगे कि अगर पानी ही नहीं होगा, पानी के पीछे लड़ाइयाँ होंगी। सो वी नीड अ इंडिया एज द लीडर ऑफ द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ द G20 दिस ईयर नीड्स टू चैंपियन द कॉज ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट, वाटर स्कार्सिटी। 1300 से हमें बचाने के लिए हमें वो करना पड़ेगा अगले 30 ईयर्स, ताकि आप इस लेवल को ही मेंटेन कर सकें। 5800 इज नेवर गोना कम बैक अगेन, वो हम कभी नहीं ला पाएंगे, बिकॉज इज टू मच डिप्लीशन ऑफ वाटर। ग्राउंड वाटर डिप्लीट होता जा रहा है। आप देखते होंगे कि हर 2 साल बाद मोटर्स जो हैं वी हैव टू डिग देम फर्दर बिलो। मोटर सर जाती है अचानक एक दिन, और जो आता है वो कहता है कि पानी और नीचे से वी हैव टू बोर वाटर फ्रॉम मोर डेप्थ। तो 2/3 पॉपुलेशन, 60% लैंड मास, 3.6 बिलियन पीपल हु आर हाईली वनरेबल आर लुकिंग अप टू G20, आर लुकिंग अप टू आर लीडरशिप। जो आज का हमारा जो मोटो बताया, जो थीम बताया गया है, विच इज़ वन वर्ल्ड, वन फैमिली और वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, जो हमारी सिविलाइजेशनल विजडम है, जो हमारी सभ्यता का एक क्रक्स है कि हम पूरे दुनिया को एक परिवार लेकर चलते हैं। बट सोल्यूशन फिर बात वहीं आएगी, अगर हम बड़े कुटुंब को अगर हम कुछ मैसेज देना चाहते हैं तो उससे पहले वी नीड अ सोल्यूशन फॉर आवरसेल्व्स। अगर हम खुद ही नहीं कर पा रहे तो किसी के लिए हम किसी भी तरह का कोई भी एग्जाम्पल जो है वो हम सामने नहीं ला सकते। मुझे कोई बता सकता है कि जो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन होती है वो उसका सबसे बड़ा सोर्स कौन सा है? वाटर एंड कोल। 51% ऑफ द जनरेशन ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इज डन थ्रू कोल, जो थर्मल पावर है। और ये ही सबसे बड़ा कल्प्रिट है इन दी एमिशंस, जो हमारी GHG, जिनको हम ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस बोलते हैं, उनके एमिशन में सबसे जो बड़ा कल्प्रिट है वो है वो। तो इसके लिए एक पॉलिसी फॉर्मुलेट हुई है जिसको हम नेट ज़ीरो बोलते हैं। ऑस्ट्रेलिया ने अपना एक नेट ज़ीरो पॉलिसी फॉर्मुलेट की है, जिसमें ये होगा कि उन्होंने 2050 तक जो उनकी डिपेंडेंस ऑन थर्मल पावर, कोल जनरेटेड एनर्जी जो है, दे आर ब्रिंगिंग इट डाउन टू ऑलमोस्ट ज़ीरो। हमारे को इंडिया में भी हम बहुत ज़्यादा कोल डिपेंडेंट इकोनॉमी है। हमारी जो जनरेशन ऑफ एनर्जी, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इज़ हाईली रिलाइड ऑन, डिपेंडेंट ऑन कोल। इट्स लाइक 51 to 3 गीगाटन्स। अगर हमें इसको लाना है 30 साल तक, अगर हम सिर्फ 3 गीगाटन पे काम करेंगे जो हम कोल से कर रहे हैं, तब जाकर अगले 30 साल में जो है हम अपने एमिशंस को कुछ नेट ज़ीरो के पास ला सकेंगे। 2070 का टारगेट रहेगा हमारा, अगर हम 51 से 3 GT पर अपनी कोल जो हमारा है उसको हम यूज़ कर रहे हैं, ला रहे हैं। सो दिस water and this is a very big challenge for us. It's a big challenge. It is very easy to say things and put things on paper, PPTs, but on ground जब इसको करना पड़ेगा, it is very challenging. It in some ways it is next to impossible also, but करना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो world is going towards a major environmental catastrophe. तीसरा है जो हम मेन स्ट्रीमिंग। अभी भी आप देखिए कि सोलर पावर उस तरह से हमारी लाइव्स में नहीं अभी तक आया जैसा कि आना चाहिए था। सोलर पावर जो है द क्लीनेस्ट एंड द बेस्ट एंड द मोस्ट अबेंडेंट सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी। टिल नाउ टेक्नोलॉजी ऐसी नहीं आई कि वो सोलर पावर को इस तरह हार्नेस करे कि हम जो फॉसिल फ्यूल एनर्जी है या थर्मल है, कोल है, उसको जो हम बिल्कुल ख़त्म कर सकें और सोलर वैसे है। तो वी नीड टू वर्क ऑन दिस एस्पेक्ट ऑल्सो, और इसमें भी ऑलरेडी इंडिया इज़ डूइंग वंडर्स। तो इस कॉज में भी हम जो है वो चैम्पियन कर सकते हैं। वी कैन शो अ वे टू दी G20 nations as well as the nations which are not in G20, because जब हम पूरे ग्लोब की बात करते हैं the countries outside G20 are also our family. प्लास्टिक बॉटल्स, 100 प्लास्टिक बॉटल्स अगर प्रोड्यूस होती हैं तो उसमें से सिर्फ जो 12% इज रिसाइकल्ड, 20% इज बर्न्ड। कैन यू बीट इट? हम लोग अपने घर का बस उस दायरे का इतना ख्याल रखते हैं, उसके बाहर आप देखिए जो बॉटल्स है वो सब बॉटल्स प्लास्टिक की जलाई जा रही हैं। हम बात कर रहे हैं सिविलाइजेशनल विजडम की, हम बात कर रहे हैं विश्व को रास्ता दिखाने की। सबसे ज़्यादा बॉटल्स अनअबैशेडली इन अ शेमफुल मैनर हमारे आसपास, हमारे घरों में, मोहल्लों में, हमारी लोकेलिटीज़ में ये जो बॉटल्स हैं ये जलाई जाती हैं। 12% सिर्फ रिसाइकल हो रहा है, 20% जो है वो जलाई जाती है। जो रेस्ट 68% इट गोज इनटू रिवर्स एंड ओशियंस। और टॉक्सिसिटी, दिस लीड्स टू द टॉक्सिकेशन ऑफ वाटर बॉडीज, जहाँ से जिसकी एक मरीन लाइफ, एक्वेटिक लाइफ, वो सारी जो हैं अफेक्ट हो रही हैं। नॉट मैनी वुड नो दैट एक्वेटिक लाइफ जो होती है, जो रिवर्स में या ओशन में मरीन लाइफ जो है, अगर उसकी कुछ मेजर कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट्स का एक्सटिंक्शन शुरू हो जाए तो उसका जो है ग्लोबल वार्मिंग पर सीधा सीधा असर पड़ता है। इट विल नॉट गो इनटू द डिटेल्स ऑफ दैट इंट्रिकेसी, बट कुछ प्राणी जो समुद्र में या जो हमारे सागर हैं या हमारी नदियों में, उनके ख़त्म होने से एक डायरेक्ट जो है हमारा ग्लोबल वार्मिंग के साथ। आपको पता है कि हमें 1.5 डिग्री सेल्सियस का जो एक राइज है उसको कंटेन करना है। अगर हम ये अगले 30-40 साल में नहीं कर पाए जो चीज़ें हम करना चाह रहे हैं, एंड इफ़ वी क्रॉस दैट थ्रेशोल्ड ऑफ 1.5 डिग्री सेल्सियस, तो शायद द नंबर्स ऑफ अर्थ वुड बी नंबर टू मे बी अ फ्यू सेंचुरीज। वी कैन face a mass extinction once again, and this time not of animals, not of dinosaurs, but human extinction, ice age. So इस चीज़ की तरफ भी देखना, जो हमने एक सर्कुलर, इसको बोलते हैं सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी, उसको भी उसको मेन स्ट्रीम करना G20 का एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज है, और वो करना बहुत हमारे लिए इस वक्त ज़रूरी है। कुछ इनिशिएटिव्स हैं लाइक इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस, कोalition for disaster resilient green hydrogen mission and constant rise in renewable sources of energy. These will help us a lot. ये हमें बहुत ज़्यादा जो है वो हेल्प करने वाले हैं। ये जो बड़े बड़े जो कोलिशंस हैं, जो ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, इनको साथ लेके अगर इंडिया चलेगा और इनको हम कुछ अपनी विजडम प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं टू टैकल ऑल दीज थिंग्स, काफ़ी जो है वो अच्छा हो सकता है, हम लीडर बन सकते हैं। एमिशन रिडक्शन डेली लाइफ में भी हम लोग कर सकते हैं। अगर आप एक पंखा जो है अपने घर में, अगर आपको 3 पंखे हैं तो एक बंद कर रहे हैं, यू आर एक्चुअली डूइंग व्हाट, यू आर डिक्रीजिंग योर कार्बन फुटप्रिंट्स। एक कार में आने की बजाय अलग अलग में अगर आप 4 दोस्त पूल करके अपने कॉलेज, अपने वर्क प्लेस पे जा रहे हैं, अगर आपके पास कूलिंग चल रही है, दैट इज डिक्रीजिंग योर कार्बन फुटप्रिंट्स। कुछ भी काम करते हुए जो है, एक लाइट बंद कर दी, क्रॉसिंग पर आपने अपनी कार को वो कर दिया, ऑफ कर दिया, दीज आर स्मॉल लिटिल थिंग्स। आप शेव कर रहे हैं तो पानी आप कॉन्स्टेंटली रनिंग, दिस ऑल डिक्रीजिंग फुटप्रिंट। यू हैव टू कीप ऑल दीज थिंग्स इन माइंड, बिकॉज ये मैसेज जो आएगा G20 से, जो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन नहीं होगी, अगर ग्रास रूट लेवल पर हमारी एक्टिव पार्टिसिपेशन नहीं होगी, तो इट वुड बी अ वेरी फ्यूटाइल एक्सरसाइज। बट मैं यही कहना चाहूँगा, हमारी जो कन्वेंशनल विजडम है वो, वी हैव टू शो द पाथ टू दिस वर्ल्ड, वी हैव टू मेक श्योर दिस वर्ल्ड रिमेन्स, एग्जिस्टेंस हमारी बनी रहे। विश्व होगा तो ही विश्वगुरु होंगे, पर आशा यही है कि हम ये रास्ता दिखाकर विश्वगुरु होंगे। धन्यवाद, जय हिंद।
Thank you so much, sir. You've listened to Mr. Naveen Sharma.